So I want to walk you through my night last night. I was just sitting at home doing a bit of channel flicking as you do. You know the caper. I was watching Sky News. CORY BERNARDI was filling in for the great Paul Murray, and I was flicking over to the ABC every now and then to see what was happening there. Now, this is often an interesting exercise because, as you know, Sky News is the privately funded commercial News Corp pay TV channel that runs on the smell of an oily rag and is relentlessly derided by the ABC and the Green Left, by people who don't watch us, as being hard right and ignorant and all the rest of it. You know that's tosh, of course, but people who only watch the ABC or don't watch us at all, they might not know any better. Anyway, so last night, CORY, the former Liberal and then Independent Senator, he had some interesting things to say about optimism, about just how on almost every measure the world is now a better place than it's ever been.
As we solve more problems, and we're doing it through innovation and human development, we should celebrate these things. But much of the negativity that we're conditioned to is pushed through alarmist media, hyperventilating politicians, and a whole bunch of rent-seeking organisations that are always looking for a cash handout to solve some crisis or another. Most of that cash comes from government, by the way, which is actually your money.
Interesting stuff, worthy of discussion. So have a look at what I saw when I flicked over to the ABC and had a look at this show.
How could you be such a pig?
What does dog taste like?
Have you pissed in your own mouth?
Is it all pillow fights and lingerie?
Do people stare at you like you're a monster?
Do you get sick of wanking?
Is it better to be dead or missing?
Oh, great. My taxes at work, hey? It looks pretty tacky and immature, doesn't it? No, well, I went back to Sky and there was some more of this sort of stuff, discussing the coronavirus crisis in India with a former Labor minister.
The situation in India is tragic. It's overwhelmed their health system, it's overwhelmed their government, and you know the sort of numbers that are dying are just horrifying. I think you made the point the government's caught. I don't quite think it's caught in the way you've described it, though.
Great, serious discussion, and there were differing viewpoints being offered. Good food for thought. So what was happening back at the taxpayer-funded ABC?
I just expressed the desire to kiss her and she basically told me go for it.
And so I did, without even really thinking about the consequences of it. That's where my head was at.
Just kept feeding me drinks, and then come back to the room.
We just went off and used the bedroom, no big deal.
Yeah, we went back to the motel room, which gave us privacy, which gave us time, and there was no rush.
Wasn't long after that, the first time I saw her naked. Oh boy. Wow.
Terrific. More than $1 billion of taxpayers' money a year. And we've got people telling us about cheating on their partners. What an insightful contribution to the sum of human knowledge. Meanwhile, back here on Sky, we had legitimate scepticism about government actions to stop Australians returning from India.
Why have we suspended flights from India, for example, but we never suspended flights from the UK or from America or other coronavirus hotspots? We just said to people, you've got to pick up the tab yourself as you're coming back. What's the difference here?
Yeah, look, I'm very hard pressed to figure out what the difference is. And, you know, yesterday the Prime Minister was at great pains to say how gold standard the quarantine system was.
There you go. As you know, that's what happens 24/7 on this station. News, opinion, discussion and debate from differing perspectives. We like to have an argument or a rant sometimes, always a laugh if we can, but it's intelligent, inquiring stuff. And that's because that's what grown-ups want, right? We could do anything we liked on this station, but we choose to do that. But over at the ABC, where they have 4,000 staff and that $1 billion plus annual budget, they actually operate under laws that tell them what to provide. The key part of the ABC Charter says it should broadcast programs that contribute to a sense of national identity and inform and entertain, and reflect the cultural diversity of the Australian community, and broadcast programs of an educational nature. So with that thought in the back of my mind, you know I know about the ABC and their charter, I flicked back to the ABC last night to see what they're on to.
There was sex in car parks.
We used to sort of get it off in the back of my Morris Minor, as I recall.
In the back of the cars, in the front of the cars.
Which is sort of hard going.
Never did the hotel rooms though. Sometimes camping, a very low-star hotel, I suppose.
It was in my own home, on the spare bed.
We just went to his place, watch TV, have sex, go home.
Look, I'm no prude and by no means a saint, but really, who cares? They take your money and they make whatever dross they like, dumbing down the nation rather than enlightening it. Why? Well, because it's not your ABC or our ABC. The perpetual teenagers at the ABC, the Green Left activists who run the joint, they reckon, as I've demonstrated year after year after year, they reckon it's their ABC. Let's catch up with Bella Debrera now from the Institute of Public Affairs. I've got other issues to talk to you about, Bella, but honestly, the ABC, what is this? This stuff is expensive to make. They're just burning our money. It's almost like they're just mocking the fact that we give them all that money.
Look, I hadn't seen those. I haven't watched that show because I never put the ABC on for that very reason. I think that's the first mistake you made, actually. But look, it's they're taking our money, and this is the thing about the left, is that they have completely lost their sense of humour. They sort of wallow in the most depressing subjects. They refuse to see anything positive about Australia. They refuse to see anything positive about human nature. They're sort of wallowing in this sort of voyeuristic, talking about, you know, having sex in the back of a car. Why are we paying for this? Why is this money, why is our hard-earned money still going on this rubbish? It needs to be either completely privatised, or if you want to, just pay, you know, something like Netflix where you pay to view. And they'll soon realise that people don't want to watch this rubbish, and they'll have to start making shows of some quality. I mean, it's the market, it's a free market.
Look, you're absolutely right. I looked at another comedy show on the ABC last night, and the comedy show was trying to do serious current affairs. Yet when they do serious current affairs, they have comedy, like people saying Indigenous Australia wasn't transphobic until the colonisers came. It's madness. But I wanted to talk to you about how some of these same sorts of tendencies, I suppose, are affecting education yet again, and the latest recommendations to change our national school curriculum. Again, look, they're getting rid of traditional areas of history and wanting to inject a sort of recalibration, I suppose, of Indigenous history.
Yeah, look, I mean, the first point with these changes, and they are enormous, and I've spent a lot of the day trawling through the documents on the internet, and it's just this behemoth of stuff. And I think they do it on purpose, so it's really hard for parents and the community to find out what the changes are. But the first point I would make is, has anyone actually asked parents what they want? And if the parents were to look at the changes that have been proposed, I can certainly guarantee that they wouldn't want this, because what they're proposing is to de-educate Australian children. They will know less at the end of their 6 years in secondary school at the hands of these bureaucrats than they would have at the beginning. So, for example, there's already Indigenous and Torres Strait Islander histories embedded into every learning area of the national curriculum. It's already there. These proposals want to add even more Indigenous and Torres Strait Islander histories so that it threatens to swamp every subject and become a monoculture. Not only that, but Australian children are being told in the proposed changes that Australia was invaded by the British, and that they're proposing that the version of history that children should be taught is the dark emu version of Australian history, which tells us that the Indigenous people had extremely advanced social and political and economic systems in place, which we know has been discredited. And on top of that, they've taken out any references to Christianity, they've taken out references to ancient Greece, and they've taken out references to our freedoms coming about as a result of Western civilization. So all in all, it is extremely damaging to the Australian school system. And it's the coalition, there's no way that the coalition should let this happen.
Well, we want Indigenous history taught, of course, but we want facts and we want other elements of history taught as well. Just briefly, Alan Tudge, the Federal Education Minister, stresses these are just recommendations. How can parents get to see it, get in touch with someone, maybe their local MP, and say, you know, let's have a rethink?
Well, they can go online and they can have a look at the proposed changes if they've got time. But this is the problem. They don't have time. And this is why parents need to be asked. They need to be asked what they want their children to be taught. And
spot on.
The changes are appalling, and there is no way that the federal government should let them happen. In fact, I would go so far as to say that we need to get rid of the national curriculum altogether, and we need to put education back in the hands of parents, of the community, and state governments.
Great point. We'll follow that idea up. Thanks, Bella, for wading through all that for us.
Thanks, Chris.
Bella de Brera there from the Institute of Public Affairs. We'll follow up that idea of just getting rid of a national curriculum and getting more input from parents with other authorities in later programs.